1. What is going on, y'all? I've taken a quick off season myself. We are back. New backdrop. Promise I will get that fixed up. Doesn't look so aesthetically pleasing at the moment. However, here we are. Thursday night football, week 10. Again, admit it, I've been gone too long from the game, but we're back. Had some other opportunities come up and some life changes, but we are here, and it's week 10. Wow, I've missed so much of the season, and it is now time to get some betting done. Let's make some shmoney tonight if possible, and just give you a quick preview. Obviously, we only got 45 minutes till kickoff. We're in Chicago. We're in Soldier Field tonight, playing on the field. Obviously, Chicago plays mostly in the field on outdoor fields, and so do the Carolina Panthers, who are visiting. Bryce Young, the number 1 overall pick, is visiting Soldier Field along with the rest of the Carolina Panthers. Here's just a quick preview of what we're looking at tonight. Not a banger like I say that it is, although football is football, and it's on national TV tonight. We're looking at a PFF preview of tonight's game. Here's the overall power ranks. We got the 31st versus the 29th overall power ranking teams. Tonight, the 27th best defense according to PFF against the 31st. So again, this is bottom of the barrel. We're looking at two small fishes of the sea, going up against each other, but nonetheless, it's still Bryce Young versus Bagent tonight, so we'll see how that goes. There will be a lot of scrutiny, I think, if Bryce Young falls to. I mean, this is a decent. I think Chicago's defense has been playing better than the PFF power rankings suggest, and they're a little bit better on paper. And total offensive snaps on average, 73.4, slightly faster the Carolina Panthers are compared to the 66.6 snaps per game for the Chicago Bears. That makes sense considering Justin Fields not out there again. Justin Fields out again today, so they will be rolling out Tyson Bagent. This line has not moved at all. Opened at 3.5 point favorite for the home Bears, the Bears, and it has stayed that way. Total implied points for tonight, 38 points. Man, I would stay away from the spread. I would stay away from total implied points tonight. That's just tough. I don't have really much research or numbers to crunch for y'all either, depending on whether or not where that's going to go. Mostly focusing on player props tonight. All right, y'all. Anyone out there, send in some chats. We're going to be mostly talking about Bryce Young, Chuba Hubbard, that is, Adam Thielen, Tyson Bagent, as I said, Cole Kmet, and DJ Moore. I'll be doing a little bit of that research here in-house. You'll be seeing that live. I wanted to get this up and running as soon as possible for you guys. I will be going based on over-unders on UnderdogFantasy.com. All right, so again, we will be starting with Bryce Young, making our way down. Not going to go through every single player, just bets that I think were worth looking at, notable. And so again, here's that preview for tonight's game. Bryce Young, 50.1 PFF grade. That's a quarterback. That's a total overall grade for them. 61.1 for Tyson Bagent. They've only won one game, the Carolina Panthers have, on this season, and they won by 2 points against the Houston Texans at home. The rest have been L's. Do keep in mind that these are preseasons up here that PFF still thinks is, for some reason, relevant. And so, yeah, they've been struggling. A lot of these losses are by more than 1 point, but they have a couple close ones against the Giants, against the New Orleans Saints. That was a Thursday night game, I believe. Anyway, yeah, let's see how this one goes. And here's some notable injuries, for tonight's game. Outside linebacker Haynes, questionable Von Bell, questionable Xavier Woods, questionable. This is a big one here, in my opinion, especially in terms of fantasy and if we're talking about player prop betting. DJ Chark, the very athletic DJ Chark, did not practice all week. He's out with an elbow injury, and that, to me, shakes up a lot about the pass catchers for Carolina tonight. C.J. Henderson, the former first-round pick, out with a concussion. Brian Burns, obviously also a number one first-round pick as well, out. Laviska Shenault, out. And a backup tight end, Sullivan, also out. And, there's been a lot of offensive struggles and injuries as well to the Chicago Bears. Equinemius St. Brown, the older brother to Amon-Ra St. Brown, was questionable for tonight. I'm not sure if he's going to be ready to go. Blackwell, defensive back, out or questionable. Khalil Herbert has been listed as out. This says questionable, but Herbert is indeed out, so we will probably see D'Onta Foreman, the former University of Texas running back, probably get most of the load, and Roschon Johnson, interesting, two Longhorns probably leading that Chicago backfield tonight on Thursday Night Football. Justin Fields obviously still out. Another blow to the running back core is Blasingame, also out for tonight's game. All right, I do want to start with Bryce Young. So, Bryce Young, they got a lot. Of course, for quarterbacks, there are always tons of props, tons and tons of props. The main one that I want to focus on at this time is going to be the 1.5 passing touchdowns. He's only done it once. Bryce Young's only hit more than one touchdown passing, that is, one time. And he did it against the Lions at home. Of course, tonight he's on the road in Chicago. This is an interesting stat, though. Quarterbacks versus the Chicago Bears this season. Let's take a look at that. Quarterbacks versus the Chicago Bears this season. They've played Jordan Love, Baker Mayfield. I know Sean Clifford pops up there. Baker Mayfield, Patrick Mahomes, Blaine Gabbert in cleanup garbage time, Russell Wilson, Sam Howell, Kirk Cousins, and Jimmy Garoppolo was hurt in week 7, so they got a little bit of Brian Hoyer and Aiden O'Connell, Justin Herbert, Derek Carr, and of course Taysom Hill gets in the mix there for New Orleans. And 67% of the time, 6 out of 9 times, have these quarterbacks thrown 2 or more touchdowns against the Chicago Bears. So it is a little spicy. There's a reason why this is a very high modifier here, 1.5 for Bryce Young, if he does indeed throw 2 touchdowns or more. Okay, DJ Chark is out. He's not much of a factor in terms of the end zone, in my opinion. However, 67% of the quarterbacks have done it against the Chicago Bears. I like that. Bryce Young's only done it 1 out of 7 times. Of course, the gambler in me wants to say he's due, but Bryce Young just doesn't throw that many touchdowns. He just doesn't. However, I'm going to go with the over, as I like that modifier, 1.5. That can be very high returns. Adam Thielen, as you'll see later on in the research tonight and the rest of this stream, I expect him to have a big game. Adam Thielen, obviously an end zone target for his entire career. So I do like Bryce Young. If you're a little bit more risky and you're not so risk adverse, I do like Bryce Young to have more than 1 passing touchdown tonight. That takes us to, I'm going to skip Miles Sanders, after being designated to the running back 2 position and the backup, so to speak, to Chuba Hubbard. I'm going to skip Miles Sanders. I wouldn't really touch anything with a 6-foot pole in regards to that man, Miles Sanders, although I'm a huge fan of him. If you know anything about me, big fan of Miles Sanders, but I'm just not going to touch anything as Chuba Hubbard gets warmed up towards that role. All right, Chuba Hubbard. Again, this is another spicy modifier. I don't foresee Chuba Hubbard having a touchdown tonight, okay? Reason that being, we can look at the running backs who have done this against Chicago. Let's do that. Running backs who have had a rushing or a or a receiving touchdown. Aaron Jones, obviously, that's elite company. I would not put Chuba Hubbard in that category of Aaron Jones, who's starting to look like back to form. But again, hurt, hamstring, Aaron Jones, that is. So Aaron Jones had a rushing and a receiving touchdown in week 1. That's back when the Packers actually looked like they had a very decent offense at the beginning of the season. Tampa Bay, Rachaad White, starting running back there, did have one rushing touchdown against these Chicago Bears. The Chiefs' backfield had an absolute field day on the Chicago Bears defense. Pacheco had one, even CEH had one, and Jerick McKinnon had 2 receiving touchdowns against these Bears. And so, for the Bears so far, it's looking like, well, wait a minute, Chuba Hubbard looks like he just scored a touchdown tonight. Yeah, let's see. This defense does get better as the weeks go on. Jaleel McLaughlin had a receiving touchdown against these Bears in week 4. Then they played the Washington Commanders, and then they blanked here. This is kind of where the defense kind of picked up, but you'll notice by these rushing stats here that most teams started to not really run on these Chicago Bears defense starting here in week 5. So Brian Robinson had 6 rushes, 10 yards, mostly being used in the passing game here. 4 catches on 4 targets, 33 yards, no touchdowns. Another game, week 6, Vikings. Alexander Mattison and Cam Akers now obviously out for the rest of the season with another Achilles injury. Hopefully everything goes well for Cam Akers. I hate to see that. Looked like he was having a really good comeback season after the previously torn Achilles, and I think it's the same exact foot. So that's a very tough break for the 3-year vet, I believe, Cam Akers. And again, no touchdown there. Even the Raiders, Josh Jacobs, Zamir White, and on 15 total touches, 11 rushes, 4 targets, no touchdowns. Didn't get another touchdown until week 8. So between week 5, 6, and 7, no touchdowns allowed by the Chicago Bears defense to opposing running backs. Week 8, Austin Eckler, another, in my opinion, elite running back. I don't think very many people would debate that. Austin Eckler did get a receiving touchdown, not a rushing, but a receiving, and we are talking both rushing and receiving, over 0.5 touchdowns for Chuba Hubbard tonight against the Chicago Bears defense. 15 carries, 29 yards. So, teams have been recently struggling in terms of yardage versus this Chicago Bears defense since about week 5, and a lot of damage has been done through the air versus the Bears linebackers and secondary. So Austin Eckler was the last person to score a touchdown, and he was the first to score a touchdown on this Bears defense since week 4. So again, this Bears defense is really ramped up against stopping the run, stopping running backs in general, mostly between the tackles. When it comes to the passing game, it looks like this is where they're getting most of their damage done. Miles Sanders could be a sneaky play for receiving yards tonight. If you like to bet risky, I don't. I like good money. But Miles Sanders could be used in the passing game a lot tonight. I don't foresee Chuba Hubbard being used in the passing game much, but maybe at the goal line or in the red zone, Chuba Hubbard could have a receiving touchdown if they want to maybe disguise it as a run and give a little play action and then dump off to Chuba Hubbard, because if I'm able to see this, I know that in the film room, most certainly the Panthers offensive coordinator can definitely see there is a very clear advantage for running backs being used in the passing game against these Chicago Bears. So, Chuba Hubbard, I personally would go under. You can't go under because this is a spicy modifier. You have to go over. I would not take it. But I do think that if he does get a touchdown tonight, it would definitely be receiving in the goal line situation, but definitely not something I want to touch. I don't want to touch anything between the 2 Panthers running backs tonight at all. And so that is going to give us what we've got in Adam Thielen tonight. And Adam Thielen, the main bet that I want to look at, and I don't think this has changed too much, has it? No, the yardage has not, is the receptions. 6.5 receptions for Adam Thielen. Let's take a look at his splits. So here is Adam Thielen splits on Pro Football Reference. All right. Adam Thielen, Pro Football Reference. And, of course, Carolina Panthers are on the road in Chicago, as I said earlier. And Adam Thielen right here in this row, as you can see, averaging 8.8 receptions on the road is Adam Thielen with Bryce Young at the helm this year. We got a little dose of other quarterbacks too. But 8.8 receptions per game. He's averaging 9 targets per game as well on the road, that is. I'm not going to do win and loss splits. You can't foresee any of those. But it looks like they have played one Monday night game. He did get 7 receptions. How about hit rate? How often has he done more than 6 receptions? Well, let's talk about that. Receptions, week 1. I'm sorry, I don't know if that's week 1. I think they jumbled this a little bit. But against the Falcons, he did not hit it. Lions got it. Houston Texans got it. Against the Colts, under. Miami got it. Minnesota got it. Saints got it. And Seahawks got it. And again, DJ Chark is out tonight, y'all. So, and maybe you're at home thinking, what does DJ Chark have anything to do with Adam Thielen? Besides being in the same wide receiver room, DJ Chark, surprisingly, 18% target share of this Panthers offense. Now, granted, they don't run too many plays. I mean, relative to the Bears, they do. However, 18% target share is not peanuts. That's something we got to pay attention to. So I think Thielen, maybe even Tommy Tremble might have a little bit more of an impact tonight than they normally do. So I think 6.5 receptions for Thielen is easy shmoney. To me, that's every time I say that's a lock. Usually doesn't hit, but tonight it feels good. Adam Thielen, again, 8.8 receptions on the road is his average total hit on the season. If you even include home games, 6 out of 8 times has he gone over 6.5 receptions. So to me, that's an easy over. And no doubt about that. Even if we wanted to, we have a little bit of extra time here. If we wanted to pick, let's see here. I like Tommy Tremble. Athletic kid, starting tight end, really doesn't get a whole lot of love. He's young. I think he's like 23 years old this year. 10.5 receiving yards is what we're looking at. Let's take a look at those splits there. If y'all don't mind bearing with me. Tommy Tremble. Let's pull him up. Let's look at his splits. And gives you a little insight on how I can actually research and look into these numbers. All right. So 10.5 receiving yards, right? Let's take a look. And the guy just does not get a lot of targets, right? And that's fair. How many times has he hit 10.5? Well, it looks like he didn't play. Looks like he didn't really play against Minnesota, or maybe he did. It just didn't get any targets or any receptions. I imagine he did play that game. So we've got no targets, no receptions, no yards. That one's blank. I think he was out. So yardage wise, he's hit it 1, 2, 3 times out of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 games. So 3 out of 7, obviously that's very low, but DJ Chark has mostly been playing in these games. I think for 10.5 receptions, I would go over. Let's look at tight ends against the Bears defense. Surely I have that somewhere. Yeah, right here. Tight ends versus Bears defense. Again, we're still talking about Tommy Tremble. This is not, a household name, but this is also where you can make a lot of money. Not a lock. This is something that I would put on if I'm feeling a little frisky and want to add an extra leg to your same game parlay. Luke Musgrave, 50 yards as a rookie. Of course, Tommy Tremble not nearly as talented as Luke Musgrave. Cade Otton, 41 yards. Travis Kelce, obviously 69 yards. Even Noah Gray, 1 catch, 9 yards. That's close. Chris Manhertz got 10 yards. Former Carolina Panther, actually. 10 yards, held him just over. So Denver, the only team so far to have a tight end that didn't go over 10.5 yards in a game against the Chicago Bears so far. Logan Thomas, 77 yards. Even the backup, John Bates, with 19. TJ Hawkinson clearly surpassed 10.5 yards. Yeah, Michael Mayer got him some too. 2 catches, 13 yards. This is on those Chicago Bears defense against tight ends. Austin Hooper as well as the backup there in Las Vegas to get 18 yards. Donald Parham, Chargers tight end that week. I don't think Gerald Everett played that week. 4 catches, 43 yards, and then both of the tight ends, besides Taysom Hill, getting over 10.5 yards. So to me, as the starting tight end, starting at Carolina tight end, Tommy Tremble, 10.5. I mean, I'm going to go ahead and throw that on mine as well. Let's go over here. I'm going to put my money where my mouth is. I'm going to go over 6.5 for Adam Thielen as well. I am not going to touch Chuba Hubbard, and I am going to go, let's go over on Bryce Young's 1.5 passing touchdowns. Spicy. But that's it for the Carolina. If you have any other players you'd like to look into, I can certainly do that for y'all if y'all are in the chat. All right. The Bears. Let's go. Tyson Bagent. First off, this story is great. Justin Fields obviously getting hurt, and I think this is an undrafted free agent. This is one of the biggest underdog stories in the entire season. Love rooting for a guy like this. Just plays with grit. I mean, he's sneaky athletic too. I think a lot of people are kind of underrating this kid's athleticism. But easily, I think 13.5 fantasy points is honestly kind of, for a starting quarterback who's been playing well. If you look at his stats here, he's hit that 2 out of the last 3 times. As long as he's throwing more than 30 times, he's gonna hit that. And got to take care of the ball. Obviously, no turnovers. I think he will. This is not an imposing Panthers defense as we saw in the beginning here in our preview. This is, a bottom 5 defense in the entire league. So I like Tyson Bagent to go over 13.5 fantasy points. Now, if you're more inclined to take unders in this game, I don't blame you. This is the 38 total implied points for this Thursday night matchup. If you want an under, I think the under that you probably want to take here is going to be his rushing yards. This seems a little rich for Tyson Bagent rushing yards here. 22.5. Here's why. Tyson Bagent, let's look at his splits here for the season. Again, we're looking at 22.5 rushing yards. And I want to look at full games that he's played. I don't want to include the Minnesota game where Fields got hurt. I don't want to include the games where Fields got hurt, and so if we deselect that one, let's look at rushing, which is going to be right here. And these columns here, he's got 3 attempts for 24 yards against the Raiders. That's a hit. 8 rushes for 70 yards against the Saints. That's a hit. And then the Los Angeles Chargers got -1 yards. But that Chargers defensive line is a completely different animal compared to what we're looking at tonight in the Chicago Bears. He did get a touchdown, although he got negative yardage. That's pretty interesting for Tyson Bagent that week against the Los Angeles Chargers. But I'm going to go ahead with the under. All right, so he has hit this. He has hit this prop 66% of the time in full games played, as I just showed you, 2 out of 3 times. This is a risky one. This is a risky one because Bagent can definitely do some damage with his legs, especially against a linebacker crew for the Chicago Bears who get burnt even by running backs. I'm sorry, a Panthers linebacker crew that gets burnt by running backs at times. But here's why. Only one quarterback has ran for more than 22.5 rushing yards. You don't believe me? Let's prove it. Let's look at the numbers here. This is against Carolina, right? So quarterbacks. There's only one quarterback, and you might be able to guess who it is. So Desmond Ridder, -1 rushing yard. Derek Carr, -4 rushing yards. And there he is, Taysom Hill. 9 attempts, 75 rushing yards. He's the only quarterback who has ran for more than 22.5 rushing yards against this Carolina defense. Geno Smith, -4. I'm assuming this is including sack yardage. Jared Goff, obviously not a runner, 0. Teddy Bridgewater, -2. Tua Tagovailoa, 0 yardage. That's 0 yardage. Mike White, -4 yards on the run as well. That's definitely in garbage time. CJ Stroud with 13. So I just think 22.5 is kind of rich, and I think it's because they're heavily weighing, and Vegas doesn't probably really know what to do with these lines. So they pick something of a median between his 70-yard rushing game which Bagent had against, who did he have that against? I believe it was the Saints. Yeah. So that was against the Saints. And yeah, 24 in another game. Clearly, the kid can do a lot with his legs. He did it against two defensive lines that are decent. Cam Jordan's still doing his thing down there in New Orleans. And then the Raiders, Max Crosby. I mean, there's certainly some pressure there. So he's able to flush out of that pocket and run. I just think that this Carolina defense is actually decent. Brian Burns is out, so we do have to consider that. Brian Burns being out, maybe this is a sneaky over for Tyson Bagent and how athletic he is. Personally, just looking at the numbers and how they've done against quarterbacks not named Taysom Hill, I'm absolutely going to take the under for 22.5 rushing yards for Tyson Bagent. Now, I would rather go his and be optimistic here. I would rather go his 13.15 fantasy points. Okay, on Underdog, scoring is half PPR. Tyson Bagent is most likely not going to catch his own pass, but I still think 13.15 fantasy points will be fine for him. I think he'll be able to do that quite easily, even if he doesn't go for over 22.5 rushing yards. So again, if you think this is going to be a terrible matchup, boring game, slow, then I definitely think you should take the under here on his 22.5 rushing yards. But personally, I think Tyson Bagent at least throws one touchdown. Probably going to throw for about, what do you think? He's going to throw for at least maybe 160 yards, 175. I think he can easily get to 13.15 fantasy points. I'm going to not touch the running backs for the Bears. It's just, running back by committee. I think Eberflus is going to kind of just ride that hot hand. No thanks. I'm out. I do want to look at Cole Kmet before we look at DJ Moore. We've got about 20 minutes here till kickoff. Cole Kmet. All right. Let's look at Cole Kmet. I want to start with his 4 receptions here. 4 receptions. All right. Carolina, surprisingly very good against tight ends. But not just that. Cole Kmet is only averaging 3.5 receptions at home. So let's look at Cole Kmet here on PFR. Let's look at these home splits. Here we are at home, 3.5 receptions per game. He's averaging 4.6. So, Underdog knows what his average is. They're going to put it right there at his average, 4.6 receptions per game. And then on top of that, again, we are playing at home. So if you want to look at it more specifically at home, he's only catching 3.5 per game, which would put us under that 4. I like betting. I know some people don't like betting even numbers because it could void it if Kmet gets exactly 4, and that's actually why I like it. It's very low risk, especially for a guy who's going to catch on average 4.5 per game, and the line is set to 4 for him today. So what about the total times he's hit this? He's hit it 6 out of 9 times. Let's take a look. Against the Broncos, hit 7 receptions. Packers, 5 receptions. Kansas City, 2 receptions. Though against the Raiders, none. He completely blanked that game. That was just a weird game. He played like 89% of the snaps. Didn't get a target. Didn't get a catch. So, yeah, I don't really understand that one, that game, but he blanked it anyway, nonetheless. Against Minnesota, 2 receptions. Didn't hit there. Against the New Orleans Saints, hit with 6 receptions. Chargers, 10 receptions on 10 targets. Jeez. Tampa Bay Buccaneers, 4 receptions. So, you can't count that as a hit, but it's not a loss. That's for sure. So it's safe enough to put on your bet slip. And 5 receptions a hit against the Washington Commanders. So here's why I'm going to pick the under as well, though. Although it's not risky. Only 50% of the time has he hit this at home. DJ Moore is completely healthy. Darnell Mooney's been playing well with Bagent playing under center. And so I think with the total implied points of 38, if I'm going to bet anything on Kmet, if I'm going to bet anything, I think he scores a touchdown. But not everyone can eat on this offense at one time. I think the running backs are going to do really, really well tonight against this Carolina. I don't want to bet on them just because I don't know who's going to be the hot hand. Foreman although he can be very efficient. I believe Roschon Johnson can be even more explosive, and I think Eberflus is just going to ride whoever is more explosive, and we just don't know who that's going to be. And so because of that, the low implied points of 38 total tonight. I think this is going to be a running backs game. Chuba Hubbard, Miles Sanders versus Roschon Johnson, Deontay Foreman. I don't think that these teams necessarily want to put too much pressure on their quarterbacks, and they want to win these games. I'm not here to say that the Panthers are tanking. Bears, maybe. They could be tanking. And so, to me, if you're going to bet an over on something for Cole Kmet, it's got to be a touchdown. Got to be a touchdown. He's hit a touchdown in 3 games. That segues us perfectly. So 4 receptions, I would take the under. But if I'm going to bet, anything else on Cole Kmet, it's also going to be touchdowns. I'm going to say under. Here's why. He's only hit it 33% of the time. He's only caught a touchdown in 33% of his games. 3 out of 9 times. He's only hit it 1 out of 4 times, 25% of the time at home, which the Bears are tonight. Let's look at tight ends against Carolina. Only one touchdown. One touchdown against 4 tight ends against the Carolina Panthers. And it's a rookie. Cole Kmet, obviously not. That's a dumb correlation, but nonetheless. Let me name the tight ends that have not scored touchdowns against Carolina this season. Kyle Pitts. No surprise there. Thanks, Arthur Smith. Juwan Johnson. Foster Moreau. Noah Fant. Colby Parkinson. I'm not intimidated by those guys yet. TJ Hawkinson. Okay. Now, Sam Laporta. That's the man. That's the guy. He's the one. The rookie out of Iowa who has scored a touchdown against these Carolina tight ends. And I think, honestly, it's because these teams are finding success throwing against the cornerbacks against the Bears. Brock Wright, no touchdown. Durham Smythe with Miami, no touchdown. Dalton Schultz, who's been ramping up, doing better with C.J. Stroud and building that rapport there. And Indianapolis tight ends, Ogletree and Granson. So, maybe they haven't played the best tight ends. And the one elite, there's really been 2 elite tight ends that they've played, T.J. Hawkinson and Sam Laporta. And Sam Laporta was the only one to score a touchdown against these Carolina Panthers and that defense. So if I'm betting Cole Kmet tonight, I'm betting under. I just am. I just based on his hit rate and what he's done, I like betting even numbers. To me, I think Cole Kmet catches 4 receptions at most tonight. Maybe he'll prove me wrong. I got some shares of him that in fantasy that I am starting him. So we'll see. He's averaging 3.5 receptions at home. Like I said, 50% of the time is he hitting the 4 reception prop over. So it's a coin flip at home. 3.5 receptions at home. And in total, he's hit it 6 out of 9 times in total. All right. DJ Moore, I got some time. Got about 5 minutes for DJ Moore. 4.5 receptions. Let's go ahead and take a look at that. DJ Moore, not touching touchdowns. Sorry, that guy just does not get into the end zone enough for me. I just want to bet that. 4.5 receptions. Let's take a look at his splits here. 4.5 receptions for DJ Moore. Former first-round pick out of Maryland. He is against the Broncos. Hit. Packers. No hit. Sorry. Kansas City Chiefs. Under. Raiders. Over. Vikings. Over. Saints. Under. Chargers. Under. Buccaneers. Over. And Commanders. Over. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 out of 9 games. 4 out of 9 games. It's not necessarily something that I love. It's less than a coin flip. So it's tough. And it's Bagent still trying to build that rapport there. What about home splits? The Bears are at home. He is averaging 5.8 receptions per game. Okay. That looks good for us. 5.8 per game. He only has 1 touchdown at home. He's got 4 touchdowns on the road. That might be why that underdog bet for his touchdowns is pretty spicy at double. He's DJ Moore, that is, had 4 touchdowns on the road and 1 touchdown at home. Let's see here. Where has he done them? He's done it against, what did I say here? Broncos, Raiders, Vikings, Vikings, Bucks, and Commanders. So I lie. It's 5 out of 9 times. 5 out of 9 times. Okay, it's a little better than a coin flip. Maybe 4.5 receptions is actually quite low for DJ Moore. I'm gonna take his over. Let's put our money where our mouth is. Let's take the over. As you can see, my little cheap amount of that I've got here in underdog. I am gonna go ahead and make a bet here. Let's just put a few bucks in here, see what happens. I'm gonna chicken out and put the insured. Make sure I get a chance at losing one of them. Let's see here. Following projections aren't inactive. Looks like I've taken too long. Scorchers must be correct. All right. So obviously it's time to refresh here. And let's look at his receiving yards before I close out here. DJ Moore, 54.5 receiving yards. How many is he averaging at home? Receiving yards at home, 65.3. What does Vegas know? What does Vegas know? He's averaging 65.3 yards per game at home. DJ Moore, that is, and his prop is at 54.5. These numbers do seem very, very low. That kind of scares me. What does Vegas know? Ian Rappaport back there behind me. 54.5 yards. Let's take a look at that. Broncos hit. Raiders under. All these other ones are under. Chargers over. Buccaneers over. Commanders is when he had that massive game, 3 touchdowns, 230 yards. I believe that was on Thursday Night Football actually as well. It was. It was on Thursday Night Football. So again, Thursday night could be DJ Moore's thing. But he's only caught a touchdown. He's only gone over 54.5 yards 3 out of 9 times. That's 33% of the time. That's a tough one. That's a pretty low number considering he's averaging, 63 yards? 65 yards per game on at home this year. And it's set to 54.5. So, for me, if I'm going to take anything on DJ Moore, it's going to be the over for his receptions. And let's go back here. I'm going to do Bryce Young's over 2 passing touchdowns. And is Cole Kmet on here still? Oh, yeah. I'm going to take, now I've got a decision to make. Bryce Young, Bajan, Adam Thielen. Okay, so what am I going to take here, y'all? I'm going to take Kmet under a touchdown. Sam Laporta being the only one who scored a touchdown against Carolina. Or do I want to take DJ Moore over 4.5 receptions? I'm going to take DJ Moore over 4.5 receptions and get out of that Kmet stack there. All right. It still doesn't want me to submit it. Well, that wraps it up for me. Again, let's go over this sheet real quick for you guys if you want to punch in any last-minute bets. Carolina, Bryce Young, 1.5 touchdowns. I'm going to take the over here. Here's why. 6 out of 9 quarterbacks have done it, have gone over 2 passing touchdowns. Those quarterbacks are named Jordan Love. Not impressive. Patrick Mahomes, obviously, he's not at that level. Russell Wilson in Week 4 did it against Carolina. Sam Howell, who's obviously a gunslinger compared to Bryce Young, did it as well. And the last 2 to do it, Justin Herbert and Derek Carr. I think Bryce Young can do it on Thursday Night Football. It's going to be very close to that 38-point implied total for this Thursday night matchup. Bryce Young, however, has only done it 1 out of 7 times this season. And so I can see, someone being kind of risk adverse, not wanting to do that. But it is what it is. I think it's worth the scorcher, the modifier, and the multiplier on underdog to go ahead and say Bryce Young's going to throw 2 touchdowns tonight. Adam Thielen being a big part of that. Chuba Hubbard going to take the under on his touchdowns. I'm looking at that right here. 5 out of 8 running backs have done it. It's hard to say. It's hard to say. I think if he is gonna score a touchdown, it's gonna be a reception. I think at the goal line. I said that earlier. Adam Thielen. This is probably the easiest one. It's probably the lock of the night for me. Adam Thielen, 6.5 receptions. Easily take the over there. Although I could definitely see the Bears clamping down on him. Doubling up, having a safety over the top. No matter what, he's never going to be by himself. But I just think with the amount of targets that he's going to get, DJ Chark being out, again, that's 18% of the target share for the Panthers, I think is a big deal. I think Adam Thielen's going to get peppered tonight. Moving on to Chicago, Tyler Bagent, I think 13.5 fantasy points for tonight's game is a little very cheap, in my opinion. So I'm going to go ahead and punch that one in. 22.5 rushing yards. Going to say under for him tonight. The only one to do that against Carolina as a quarterback this season has really been Taysom Hill, more of a tight end. By the way, Taysom Hill, first player I think in NFL history to have 10 touchdowns throwing, 10 touchdowns rushing, 10 touchdowns receiving in your career. So congratulations for that milestone that might not ever be broken. Again, Cole Kmet, I'm going to take the under on both of them. I didn't put him on my slip because I like DJ Moore's prop a little bit better. Under 4 receptions. He's averaging 3.5 at home on total on the season, hitting at 67% of the time. But it's a coin flip at home, so Kmet just doesn't perform nearly as well at home as he does on the road. Only one tight end has scored a touchdown against this Carolina defense, and that has been Sam Laporta, who did it twice in their game against Detroit. DJ Moore, I'm going to take that 4.5 receptions, 5 out of 9 times as he hit it this season. And he's averaging about 6 receptions or more at home this season. So I'm going to take DJ Moore very happily there. I appreciate y'all sticking this long. Appreciate y'all coming through, listening in, whether you are, whether you're not. No offseason's back, baby. No offseason is back. And I hope you enjoy this very low-scoring game, most likely. But I will be there. Your mama will be there. Everyone will be there watching this game, I'm sure. Everyone's going to be loving this game, betting this game up. And maybe we can get a little bit of a recap, seeing how well we do or don't do on these bets. So with that, I say good night, good evening, see you tomorrow.